Welcome to the Living Artist Podcast. I'm your host, Preston M. Smith. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Living Artist Podcast. I'm Preston M. Smith, at PMS Artwork everywhere on internet land and socials. I want to thank you for landing on this podcast. Whether you're a professional artist, just getting started in the art world, a collector of art, or just consider yourself a creative person, this podcast has something for you. I like to think of it as a fun way to rant and talk to other creative people about living the life of an artist, surviving and getting ahead in the art world, and enjoying your life. But most importantly, not waiting until you're dead to make it happen. All right, let's get started. So you have, is that a daily routine?
Pretty much,
cups of espresso? Do you do shots, like a double shot, or do you spread them out?
I spread them out.
Ah, look at you. Does it make you jittery?
Not really. Any more than that, it would.
Yeah. I'm actually pretty sensitive to caffeine. So this mate, it's actually really highly caffeinated, but for some reason, because it's like tea, it doesn't affect me as much as coffee. If I have too much coffee or espresso, I'm just like bouncing off the walls. You know what I mean?
I'm kind of a mutant in that I can drink an espresso and sleep right afterwards just fine.
Oh, nice. There you go.
But I will have weird dreams.
You'll have dreams where you're just murdering people.
Yeah, pretty much.
Nice. Yeah, it's funny. You know what? It's weird. I don't know if that's something to do with our chemical makeup or something, but when I have coffee, it does a similar thing to me. Like I can be bouncing off the walls, but it'll start to make me yawn. Like I just start yawning uncontrollably and I can fall asleep, but my heart will be beating really quickly. So it's weird. Strange. Welcome back to Coffee Talk with
right.
Glenn and Preston. Yeah. I just decided we would just talk about caffeine for an hour.
We'll do this for the first hour and then we'll launch into some art stuff.
Yeah, exactly. We'll just do like 5 minutes of art at the end. Well, it's good to talk to you, man. It's I have bumped into you a couple times outside of BG Gallery. Yes. For those of you who don't know, that's a gallery at Bergamot Station, Santa Monica. We've done a couple shows together during the pandemic there, and also Shockbox.
Yes, yeah, I've been showing there a lot lately.
Yeah, I think you've been in the last at least 2 or 3 shows.
More than that.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a nice gallery. I really like what Mike's doing there.
Oh, Mike's doing a great job for sure.
And it's really kind of an area that seems like, it could really be an up and coming scene.
Oh, I couldn't agree more.
It's not like the pristine Manhattan beach place. It's in Hermosa, so it's a little bit industrial where he is. Yes. But it's really close to the beach. It's a great location.
It gives it that kind of underground feel while still being part of the beach community.
Yeah, it has that edge to it without being like a storefront on Melrose or something. Melrose is a wrong example. And more like a storefront in like Santa Monica Promenade.
Yes, exactly. Well, that's one of the things that I think Mike and I have talked about too, is having that little bit of like a punk aesthetic. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like an underground punk feel. But it's cool doing these cafe shows during the pandemic. We've gotten to, reach across the pond a couple of times. We've had some international artists. We've had some artists from across the country. And it's kind of cool to see Shockbox thriving in this time.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, first of all, I wanted to get this out of the way. It's funny because we were talking about this. You and I actually live about a mile away from each other, right?
I was just going to say that. Yeah. And we're Zooming.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we do now. Even coming out of the pandemic, we're like, do you want to go? You want to get a coffee? Nah, let's just Zoom it.
I don't know if I want to leave my property line today.
Exactly. Screw property line. I don't want to leave my room.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I know I'm spending way too much time sitting these days. It's not good.
Oh my God, man. Tell me about it. I think I
do paint on my feet, so I don't sit down when I'm doing that at least, but still.
Oh, I didn't know that you painted on your feet.
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
On my feet, on my hands, the walls, everywhere.
You do handstands. Oh, that's great. I love that. Now, do you do an easel or do you hang the piece on the wall?
Easel.
Okay. Yeah, I used to do easel when I did pop surrealism, and then I started to paint like on a table. I think that's part of the reason. We're talking about sitting, that and leaning over. I think that's part of the reason why I screwed up my back recently. But
Ooh,
yeah, keep standing up. That's a good way to go.
yeah.
Yeah. So we're a mile apart, and we're Zooming. We talked about
Beautiful downtown Tarzana.
beautiful downtown Tarzana. How long have you lived in Tarzana?
A little over 20 years.
Oh, nice. Okay, you got
Yeah,
me
it's a
beat.
nice place. I mean, it's like the 101 is right there, so it's an easy shot to downtown. Beach is just over the hill. It's kind of an easy place to get to things from.
It is, and it feels.
Except, of course, for the traffic. But
Oh my God. Yeah, talk to my wife about that. Do you wait? So you have you been working from home recently?
no, I actually got laid off right when the pandemic started.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And I was working on the west side. I'd been working on the west side for so long, and it was just like, I mean, I've been doing that drive over the 405 for like 20 years, and it's just 2 hours a day in your car.
Oh my
And
God,
it
man.
wasn't until I got laid off that I realized just how horrible things were.
Right.
It was just, I mean, I remember you had mentioned this a number of times on your show about, you had the job in the restaurant and you just have to sit down and, just like chill out for a while. I mean, I had definitely reached that point.
So even if this hadn't happened, you would have been potentially thinking about making the jump.
Yeah, I think so.
That's cool. Well, that's a great place to start, man. I didn't know. I don't know how I didn't know that you got laid off, but it sounds like it could have been a little bit of a blessing in disguise.
I think so.
Okay, good. Well, even if it's not, let's frame it that way.
Yeah, it is what it is. You just got to deal with it.
It is. So, well, this is good because, this is called The Living Artist and not waiting till you're dead to make it happen.
I've talked to people. I had a friend of mine I was talking to about this a while ago, and I just said, I would just love it if I could just stay home and make art all the time. And he said, oh, I've done that. And after about 3 days, you'll kind of go bonkers. And it's like, it's been 10 months and I dread that I would have to get another job.
Oh yeah. That's weird.
I just love that I have all this time to paint.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, the only thing for me that gets monotonous is like the business side of it, but the painting side is no problem. I love it. Any day, all day, I could do it. It's funny that person was kind of like projecting that upon you.
I know.
It's like, you're gonna hate it, man. Just stay in the corporate world, bro.
Yeah, you don't know me very well.
Yeah, exactly. So have you been looking for other work, or did you just decide, look, I'm gonna jump into this?
I will have to start looking soon. I'm trying not to. I'm trying to just take advantage of as much time as I can right now to make art.
Yeah.
I've sold a few things here and there. I've tried like Art Finder and Singular, and they just didn't work for me. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of the reason for that is I do a lot of work on larger like wooden panels that have like 2-inch, they're like 2 inches deep and they've got intermediate supports on the back. So, to ship those would just be a nightmare.
Yeah. I ship some big wood pieces too. It's a pain, especially with Art Finder because they don't help you with shipping. So it's all on you to figure that out. I would say, did you give it how much time did you give it? Were you going at it every day? Because it took me about a year and a half straight of like working my butt off on there to start getting sales. And then it was just like, every day. I was telling a friend of mine, like, it's like a war of attrition, at some point you wear them down and you get in the algorithm and it starts working. Did you go after it pretty hard or for a while?
I went at it pretty hard for about 6 months.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. That's a pretty good,
it might have worked out for me. I just, it just got to be kind of a pain.
Yeah.
I'm sort of go back to just, I want the gallery scene back. And, my next step here is I want to convert my garage into like a studio. And I can have, more formal studio visits there.
Oh, so yeah.
That help.
That would be great. Yeah. There's nothing like getting people actually in your studio.
Yeah. Right.
How are you set up with your studio over there?
Right now I have a spare bedroom that I took over.
That's pretty
Years
much me
ago,
too.
when my oldest daughter went to spend a year in China, while the car was on the way to LAX, I was already moving the easel into her bedroom.
You're like, all right, honey, love you. Get out of here.
Yeah, by the time my wife got home from taking her to the airport, it's like you couldn't recognize the room anymore.
And Glenn didn't emerge from the room for 5 years.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Well, that's funny. A lot of people think that you need a conventional, like, separate studio space, but it was partially monetary for me, but I kind of grew up working from home. I mean, I couldn't afford a studio space, so I would just convert my space wherever I was living. If it was a studio, if it was a 1-bedroom, whatever, 2-bedroom, I just converted that into a studio, and I've kind of upgraded over the years. I think it's whatever works, right?
Yeah.
With your studio.
Like I've got the tiny bedroom right now, but it's got this great big window, so the light's really good.
Oh, nice.
It works fine.
No, lighting is so important.
Art that's like really huge. Like I know Mike does stuff that's just gigantic, at Shockbox.
Yes.
For me, like 3 by 4 feet is probably the biggest I've ever worked on.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's a good size.
I tend to like to do smaller pieces. Also, smaller pieces are a little easier to sell,
Yeah,
because
definitely.
people have wall space for them.
Yes, true. It's one of those things where I've tried to balance it out. Like, I got stuff started with small pieces, and then I tried to kind of transition to the big ones, because if you're trying to make a living doing it, getting a big sale here and there really helps. Like, there's this girl who I was kind of chasing for a while, and she just sells like these big 6 feet by 4 feet or 8 feet by 5 feet pieces, and she sells like one of those a month, and she's good. Wow. She's making like $4 or $5 grand off those. Now, not everybody can do that, right? But
true.
But yeah, but that's something to shoot for, at least.
It's kind of something that I plan to do when I do my garage conversion deal, is just like staple a huge piece of canvas on the wall and just work at something really huge.
I would love to see your stuff really big, because it's funny when you look at your stuff online, it kind of is deceiving. It looks like it would be large
as it is. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But it would be cool to see one of your sparse, the horizon lines you have, like where you have like a lot of almost negative space, and then you have a little building in there or a small figure. It would be really interesting to see one of those on a large format.
That would be fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So are you going to be converting the garage pretty soon?
Not for a while. I'll have to get an actual job to make that happen.
Right. Yeah, that's always been my goal too. Right now, I'm just using my garage for storage and for the cars, but there's like 400 paintings.
You can't even walk in my garage right now. That's the other thing, is we got so much stuff to get rid of. Yeah.
I hear you, man. I hear you. My wife's a little bit of a hoarder. She never listens to this anyway, so she's a little bit of a hoarder. So if I can convince her to throw away some junk, maybe we'll be closer. Well, I wanted to ask you. Hang on a second. Before I'm dying, give me 1 sec. I'm going to add to the noises. We're not a professional podcast here.
No, and we don't aim to be. Hey, wait,
we don't aim to be
this.
What's that?
You're taping this?
Yeah. Are you actually recording this? No, this is for fun, man.
People are going to hear this.
Yeah. You're going along with that punk aesthetic, right? Let's just bring all the noises in. I wanted to ask you about your origin story. I know we've kind of talked about a couple little things here and there, where you grew up, how you transitioned into art, how you started to, find your love for art. Tell us as much as you want, as little as you want, and start as early as you want.
Okay. Yeah. Basically, I grew up mostly in Pacific Palisades, which was a lot different in the 60s and 70s than it is now.
Oh, sure.
Now it's just like people spend more on their landscaping than most people's houses cost.
Oh my God.
And back then it was more of kind of a bedroom community. It was really a fun place to grow up in. Mm-hmm. So I grew up with, skateboarding and surfing and all of that. Started working in architecture. And then about 20 years ago.
Wait, can I pause you? Did you do any surfing and skateboarding yourself?
Oh, tons.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Okay, great.
Every day.
There you go. So you and Hermosa Beach and Mike got something else to relate to.
Yeah. Actually, we've talked about this at length too. So.
Oh, okay, cool. Sorry, go ahead.
there's a hill in the Palisades called Temescal Canyon Road.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a mile long, and it goes basically from the Palisades, like Sunset Boulevard, and it kind of gently slopes down to PCH. And my dad used to work these weird hours as a press photographer. So he'd come home at like, 6 a.m. sometimes.
Wow.
And he's driving home and he gets home and he's the next morning I wake up and he's like, I saw the damnedest thing yesterday. He goes, these kids are skateboarding down Temescal Canyon with surfboards. And it's like, what idiots. And I'm like, yeah, what idiots, Dad? So I called my friends like, hey, got an idea.
I love it.
We've been walking down that hill for so long with our surfboards. We decided we'll just skateboard with it. Yes. And it actually was so great because the surfboard would kind of work as a wind sail, so you could sort of control your speed.
Oh,
and
interesting.
By the time you got to the beach and paddled out, you were completely warmed up.
Yes, exactly.
It was great.
And well, I got to ask the question, did you ever eat it going down that hill?
Actually, no. Surprisingly enough.
Wow.
Even with like a cheap pair of sandals. Just to make it even dumber.
Right. Nowadays, we would just eat it right away.
Yeah. And the funny thing too is that hill, it's like where it hits PCH is where it starts to get a little steep. So that part you had to really kind of watch it.
Yeah. That's cool though. I grew up in Wyoming and I wanted to be the surf kid. I was like the kid in Wyoming in the snow wearing the Town and Country surf shirts, Do you remember those at all?
Oh yeah.
The bright color with like the ape on them. I would have killed to be a surfer. And then I moved to California and I never surfed.
It's not too late.
It's never too late, man. That's right.
It's probably a good pandemic activity too.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I guess that would be a great pandemic activity. I'm sure the surfers have not paused at all.
No, they haven't.
Yeah. Well, some things are pandemic proof. So sorry, you got into architecture.
So I got into architecture and I've always been like sketching cartoons and stuff like that and just drawing. And one day I decided, well, I'll take a painting class. And this was about the year 2000 or so.
Okay.
And I took a class, and as soon as I started in with oils, I was just hooked. It's like, this is so great. These colors are like so vivid, and I really loved it. And the thing that was kind of funny, and I mentioned architecture, is that I did a lot of like these twisting buildings at first, and they were really brightly colored. Mm-hmm. And all the lines were like super precise. And it really bothered me. And I've spent years just kind of trying to loosen things up. Like the things I make now all have very soft edges to them.
Yeah.
That took a lot of I had to kind of like police that out of the work.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're used to doing that by trade, it's like training yourself to work a completely different way.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I like the hard edge, but I love your soft edge ones too. Now, were you doing these colorful building, like the one that actually just got in Shockbox? I think it was the minimalism show. Was that was a newer piece, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I love these ones that you have where you have like some muted colors in there, almost like a neutral palette, and then you've got this really bright splash of color in one building. Those are really powerful.
Yeah, it kind of like drags you in.
It does.
And hopefully there's enough going on in the kind of grayed out areas that it's, interesting to look at.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. Well, I look at your stuff, and when I was looking at on the website the other day, I was kind of going through your body of work, and immediately, like, I know you do cartoons, and I know you are almost like comic strip style, but cartoons. And I was like, this is like Edward Hopper meets Gary Larson. Kind of, and with a little every once in a while with like a little bit of a dark existential edge to it,
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good way to sum it up, I think.
Okay, nice. Feel free to use that.
Put on my business card.
Exactly. Just give me a little credit, like very small print.
Yeah.
So sorry. Yeah. So you worked on getting the edges softened.
Yes.
Keep going.
What else?
Well, actually, let me ask you a question. So how did your architecture job inform your art? Or was it, like you're saying, more of a thing that you had to fight against?
I sort of had to fight against it. It didn't, it was sort of like a church and state thing. I kept the two very, very separate.
Mm-hmm.
I, you know, the only thing I think the architecture helps me with in making my buildings and stuff and paintings is that, the perspective is just comes so naturally now.
Yes, that's one thing I would say. I mean, you could almost, if you hadn't told me that you had worked in architecture, I would have been like, this guy definitely has some training and perspective. So that comes across. But everything else you're saying almost is a departure from that.
Yeah, absolutely. Some humorous stuff too. I do these kind of paintings with rabbits.
Yep, that was one of my questions. Yep.
Yeah, they're not like cuddly rabbits. They're a little bit edgy. They're kind of like the David Lynch rabbits thing.
Yes. Oh my God. I don't know if you know, but I love David Lynch.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. It almost has a little bit of a Donnie Darko feel as well.
Yeah.
So sorry, go ahead.
Frank.
Yeah, exactly. So what was the impetus for these rabbits? Like, where did those come from?
I don't know. I think I was doing a cartoon one time and then I do know. I was painting something and I was trying so hard to get this to do like a human figure and I just couldn't get the thing right. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, why don't I just put bunny ears on it? I did that. And it's like, this is actually kind of cool. Maybe I'll do more of these.
They're awesome. They're very moody. Some of them are funny. Some of them are a little creepy. I dig it.
Yeah, they have a little bit of an edge to them.
Yeah, for sure. And when you said, I hadn't thought of David Lynch, but the moment you said that, I was like, yep, that's exactly right. Yeah, that was one of my questions coming up later. But I wanted to say your work also, like I was saying a bit earlier, has a very interesting horizon line, almost in every piece, it seems like. There's something about the horizon line that always draws me in.
They almost always have that.
I love that about your work. And if you almost took the figure or the building or whatever you have in there out of it, the subject matter out, it would almost exist as an abstract piece.
Huh. That'd be kind of interesting to do.
Yeah. I also saw one of yours that was like a bunch of very small, like a small like silhouetted crowd on the horizon line. I'm not sure if you remember the piece that I'm talking about, but they were so tiny. And then there was a line going through, I don't know if it was exactly in the center or off center. And then most of it was just kind of muted color, negative space. And it almost just looked like you couldn't tell if you squinted your eyes that they were figures. And I was like, oh, this is actually a really cool abstract piece. Yeah,
and the thing that's also fun about doing those really tiny buildings along the horizon line is, I wear reading glasses now. I never paint with my glasses on, and so I go at it with kind of a larger brush and just go into it as detailed as possible. And then I put my glasses on. It's like, whoa, that's really cool. There's like some little thing in there that's just working. It looks like a window and it looks like this. And it's almost cool. Like a controlled happy accident.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like what the Impressionists are doing. They're letting the medium itself kind of speak,
Exactly.
The texture itself, things come out of that. I love that. It's also kind of reminds me of, and we can talk about this a bit too, plein air painting. How the lighting and the atmosphere is always changing when you're doing painting outside. That's kind of almost what you're mirroring in the studio with your glasses, no glasses thing. It gives you a different, perspective on the same piece.
It's like focus blurry.
Yeah, exactly. Is that something that you try to go back in once you have the glasses and change, or are you pretty much like, oh, this is exactly how it should be?
The funny thing is that usually when I paint it, I think, oh, well, let's see what this really looks like. And I put on the glasses and it usually looks better, which is kind of nice because when I look at it, I think, oh, it's going to be just a jumbled mess of stuff.
Right.
I put on the glasses and it's like, oh, like I couldn't have done that if I tried.
Oh, that's awesome, man. You're going to have a bunch of artists now going like, I'm not going to fix my eyes. I'm just, we're going to call it blurred painting or blurry painting.
Ophthalmologist calling me up and saying, what are you telling people?
Hey, have you tried the Waggner method? Oh my God, it changed my
And
life,
it works
bro.
even better for driving.
I don't know about that. That's hilarious, man. I have, I was cross-eyed when I was a kid. I had alternate day strabismus. So I technically have no depth perception. So I'm very interested in how the eyes affect your work, like how other people perceive what you're painting. Because I mean, I'm obviously matching something that I see in my brain, or if I'm doing a representation of a person, a portrait or something, I'm obviously painting it the way I see it. But I always wonder if people are perceiving the flat version on the painting on the surface as the same way that I do with my no depth perception. It's just very interesting, you know?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, so maybe there's a similar thing going on there with your Waggner method.
It could be. I'm going
I
to
love it.
trademark that too, the Waggner method.
Yeah, but you got to give it a little bit of an accent to the Wagner method. It'll just give it a little bit more mystique, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, he's actually from Southern California. So we've crossed paths also at La Luz de Jesus, which is for me was one of those galleries that I really tried to get in for a long time. It's, you know, it's obviously like an infamous gallery. They turn away thousands and thousands of artists every year. And I think we did a coaster show or two together there, correct?
Yeah. That's
Was
a
that
great gallery.
great gallery? I was very sad to see Matt Kennedy go.
But have you been to his place in Pasadena?
I have. I was going to ask you about that. It's I always
Yeah,
get this
Gallery 30 South.
Gallery 30 South. I always say East.
Yeah, no, and he still does the coaster show.
Right. So he's carried that on over
Yeah.
there. So they don't do that at La Luz anymore.
No.
That's crazy. You've done a show with him, haven't you?
Yeah, I've done a couple of coaster shows there.
Nice. How do you like his space?
It's really nice. It's a great space.
It really is. I've been I saw Betsy Ensensberger show there and
Oh,
another
yeah.
show, but it's funny, like as soon as Matt left, I almost stopped doing surrealist work. So I kind of stopped applying to the coaster shows, but I keep meaning to create some more pieces and try to get in one. But I also want to have Matt on the podcast someday. So Matt, if you're listening, Glenn and I are talking about you.
Yeah, he definitely should.
Yeah, he's a great guy and has a lot of experience in the art world.
Yeah, a lot of great stories too.
Oh my God, so many great stories. I don't know if the place is still killing it without Matt, but I'm sure they're still doing okay.
Yeah, I haven't been there in a long time. I mean, of course, no one's been anywhere in a long time.
That's true. How has that affected your art? I mean, I know you've been painting a lot more, obviously. So in one way, it's affected it in a positive light, right? But how has it affected your mindset? What type of art you're creating?
You know, I hear this from a lot of people, like they're so stressed they can't make any art. Mm-hmm. And I get like that too. You know, it's just you don't know what's going to happen next, you know, what's the next job, all of that.
Right.
So I've started, rather than going into the studio and think I've got to paint something, I've got to sell some stuff, you know, it just pull back. And I got a new sketchbook recently, and I started going into the sketchbook with like charcoal, crayons, colored pencil, markers, cut out pieces of construction paper, and just make it really fun. And it just it takes your mind off all the stress. And then
that's great.
You can I've had things that I've done in my sketchbook that just thought this would make a great painting. And then I turned it into an idea for a painting.
That's what art's supposed to be, right? It's supposed to help you work through things that you're going through. So it's like you found a way to almost hack it. Well, I don't want to say hack it, but like take your mind off of the bigger problems and just get back to the fun. And then the fun sparked, you know, the creative process.
Yeah, because if you're not having fun, you're not going to make anything good.
I completely agree, man. That's a problem when people get too focused on sales. I think that's one thing that I'm sure some people have accused me of that, which is absolutely not true. I will not paint anything unless I'm feeling it. I think I've just found ways to kind of trigger my brain to get into that state where I'm and that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing there.
That's exactly it. It's just a way of triggering the mind to just focus on making art.
Yeah, and block out all the the world noise.
Yeah, exactly. Towards the beginning of November, my wife's still working, but she works from home, and she's kind of on Zoom meetings all day long. And so we decided we just needed to get out. And this was when the infection rate was really low. And so we spent a week in Palm Springs.
Oh, nice.
Which was just great. I mean, they closed off part of the main street. They had restaurants would take a lane of traffic so you could eat outdoors every night. We went to great restaurants.
Oh, wow.
I went up into Morongo Canyon with my friend Bill Brewer, and we went out, like he's a photographer, and he goes out in the middle of the night to like places way out in like Route 66 and everything.
Oh, cool.
So I took a day trip with him out to these places, and it was just amazing. And I got all these pictures of these abandoned towns and gas stations and things in the middle of nowhere. And it was really an influence on my art. And that's what I've been making lately. I
can see that. Yeah.
I made like 15 paintings of these things. I mean, my whole living room looks like, a trip to the desert. But
I love it.
Enjoying this.
No, I love it. And you can see the moodiness really shows through. In that. Like, is that the new one that you had on Instagram that I saw the other day, remote living? Is that from there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, I love it. That is working
all of these
for
are
you.
From there.
Well, it's interesting because it's kind of what you're doing, like not thematically, but it's kind of what you've been doing before stylistically, but the subject matter has just changed and almost it feels a little more isolated. I don't know.
Yeah.
And, that's really powerful. Obviously, that speaks to the moment right now too.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe that has something to do with why I'm so fascinated with these places.
It's amazing. And it's cool you got a chance to have that experience where you were able to, it almost seems like you took a little vacation from the pandemic.
Exactly.
Did you guys Airbnb it or?
No, we stayed at a hotel.
Oh, okay. And they said November, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So this was right before it started.
Yeah, this was like,
again.
And it was the beginning of November. So it was a few weeks before, everybody got together for Thanksgiving and the rates went back up.
Yep. Oh man, when will it ever end?
I know.
Now you keep hearing all this stuff about the new strains and how it's mutating really quickly, and it's like great. And then the efficacy of the vaccines they have right now maybe only will last a few months. So if a new strain comes and you've got like say you've got 10% of the population vaccinated, and then great. By the time you get the new ones, they're going to need to get vaccinated again.
Yeah, that's really scary.
It's really scary. It almost seems like it could just go on forever.
I know. And it go on forever and just keep getting worse.
Oh my God, man. I hope not.
There's a cheery thought.
Yeah, exactly. Welcome to Existential Crisis with Glenn and Preston. We're gonna have little sub podcasts from this one. So you've always been like a big supporter of the arts. I don't know about always, but since I've known you, I see you at shows all the time. You've come to my shows in the past.
I go to museums all the time. I've seen you at the LA Art Show. You actually bought a small piece of mine one time. I did.
Which I was very appreciative of.
Yeah, I love that piece.
Oh, thanks, man. But I think I wanted to hear you speak to that a little bit, like the importance of that, being kind of engaged in the artistic community.
I think when you're starting out, and it's good to go to all the shows you can go to, because you'll meet so many people, and it's great. After a while, you kind of tend to hone down, I just want to go to these galleries, or, oh, I know this person's showing here, so I'll go to that show.
Yes.
I mean, it's good to keep branching out and going to new places, but over time, I kind of went to fewer shows than I had been going to.
Mm-hmm. It's more practical.
Yeah, it just got to be kind of a pain. It's like, I spent all week in traffic, and now I've got to go drive on a Saturday night.
Yeah, exactly. Because, just like getting down to, I don't know, like I went to Shockbox a couple times on a Saturday night, and it took me an hour and a half to get there, like 7 p.m. Yeah. It's like, oh my God. That's an
awful drive.
It's an awful drive. Yeah. But it's like that many places you go in LA. So you put in your time. I think that's really important what you're saying. It's like, soak it up while you can. and then find your little niche almost. I was going to ask you about that.
Find your tribe, if you will. And, you kind of know what group's going where, and you kind of fit in with a certain group, and, it's great.
Exactly. And you're not going to figure that out without going to a bunch of stuff.
Trial and error.
I think that's what I've discovered a lot with artists in LA, because LA is so spread out. Everybody kind of finds their little tribe, or they find their little area. Like some people, oh, it's Silver Lake for me, or, oh, it's downtown LA, or, oh, it's,
that's true.
Hermosa Beach or whatever.
Unfortunately, there's like nothing in the valley.
I know. Hey, you and I are in Tarzana, man. Let's start something.
I know, it's a cultural wasteland.
Cultural wasteland. Well, we've got, it's funny because you got Ventura running right through Tarzana. You got the freeway running right through here. There's some really cool restaurants and bars and stuff.
There are, actually.
Why can't we make a little artistic hub up here?
I know. I've been asking that for years.
Fuck it, man. Let's do it.
I don't know if you've ever been to this gallery, but it was the first place I showed at. It was called Orlando Gallery. And
it sounds familiar.
It was around for like 50 years.
Oh, wow.
It was over on Ventura, like just west of Reseda, just east of Reseda.
Okay.
And it was just in a place that like...
Wait, that's like right where I am.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think it was a place where like any store or shop could really survive in, but it was perfect for an art gallery. And it was just great. I mean, they had really great openings, great shows. He had everything hung salon style, so it was like floor to ceiling art everywhere. It was really fun.
That's cool, man.
I love that place.
Well, they must have, had some clientele if they survived for 50 years.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I know.
Here's your next job, Glenn. Gallery owner.
Go drive up Reseda, find an empty storefront. There's plenty of them, and say, hey, can we have an art show here?
Hell yeah.
I've actually talked to people about doing this.
Let's do it.
We should.
There's a place I didn't even know. It's so weird. LA's like this and the valley's like this. My wife and I think this was right before the pandemic. We were kind of getting to know our neighborhood, and we were walking around, and we went up to Oxnard Boulevard, just up here off of Reseda. There's like a kind of intersection right there that's a little ghetto in an other ways, very nice neighborhood. Yeah. But if you go just a little bit east of there is and I wish I could remember the name now. It's like an art organization in this little building. I know that place. Oh, you know it. Okay. Yeah. Have you had any experience with them?
I did show there once. I did a group show one time.
Was it cool?
It was okay.
Okay.
It's more like they'll literally show any painting you show them.
Oh, I see.
It's kind of like that.
So anybody can show up and...
It's a nice space. It's gigantic.
Yeah, and it had some cool... like you have that, if you go behind the building, there seems to be a lot of parking. So it has a lot of potential, it seems like.
It's kind of a weird little place. It's one of those places you would drive by for years and years and not know what it is.
That's exactly what happened to us. We'd been driving by it, and it only took us to walk by, and I looked at the little flyer on the window, and I was like, oh my God, this is like an arts organization.
Yeah, and you go inside, and the place is gigantic.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I was locked up when we were there, so we didn't get a chance to go inside. But, interesting. I'm just trying to think, like, it would be, if you think about where is starved for art, the valley, especially kind of in this area, is starved for the visual arts a little bit. So, maybe it would be something that would be ripe for the taking. I don't know.
Yeah. And also, I mean, I've been in my neighborhood for like 20 years, and it's changed over time, and you're kind of getting more of a diverse population moving in, which I like a lot.
Yeah.
So, maybe we are kind of ripe for an art scene out here.
Yeah, maybe so. Well, let's talk in the future a little bit about it. Maybe we could schedule a show and just see what happens.
You need to kind of take the Mike Collins approach to it, whereas you just find a funky space and just make it happen.
Yeah, and have that kind of cool underground aesthetic. I think that would be awesome.
And there's tons of places like that here.
I agree. I was surprised when we actually moved up here because I didn't know much about the valley before. And I was always like a West Side person. My wife and I we're like, oh, we're never moving to the Valley, man.
Yeah.
And then we did.
Like, you're going to the Valley. I hope you had your shots.
Exactly. But then we kind of started looking around up here, and we decided that, you know what? The Valley is actually pretty cool. And it's a
lot friendlier than the West Side.
Yeah. More space for parking.
Like all you hear from people in Los Angeles is like, oh, I've lived here for years. I don't know any of my neighbors. I mean, I know all of my neighbors.
Yeah. There you go.
Down the block to return a tool to one of my neighbors. And it took me 45 minutes to get back because I kept running into people I know.
I love that. Yeah.
Great.
I grew up in a small town, and it has a little bit of that. I noticed even when I take my car into the shop up here, I was just kind of used to being a number and then just be like, all right, whatever, we can't see you right now. And I came in and everybody's like, well, what can we do for you? And they would like get on a first name basis, and they would call me up and they would shuttle me back to my place. And I was like, oh, this has like a cool community feel to it.
Exactly.
So I dig that. Yeah. Maybe that could spread over to some sort of art thing. I don't know. We'll talk about it, but let's shift gears a little bit. You are represented by Brittany Davis Gallery, right?
Right.
Is it still in Ojai?
No, she actually closed the Ojai location at the start of the pandemic.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, that was a really nice gallery. That place was huge. It was just in a great location. I'd go out there just to switch out paintings, and my wife would actually want to come along because we could go to like the pizza place a few doors up that was really good.
Hell yeah. And Ojai is beautiful too.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place. And it's very relaxing up there, which is nice.
It is. And they have a good arts community too.
Yeah. So Brittany has just, as of like 2 days ago, opened a new gallery in Los Angeles.
Oh, wow. What area?
She's on Pico, like literally just south of LACMA.
Just south. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, wow.
So I'm actually going there tomorrow to drop some stuff off.
That's a great area.
It looks like a really good location.
Yeah. You're like right by LACMA.
Exactly.
Oh man.
I mean, there's another thing. It's like, you can go drop off art and then go up to LACMA.
Yes.
Like while you're there.
I think that's something that about LA that's a little different because of, the nature of being so spread out. I think a lot of people miss out on a lot of cultural opportunities.
True.
I was happy when I moved down here because I came down here to act and paint. And so I started doing extra work right when I got into town like 20 years ago. So I would just drive all over the city early in the morning. And it really gave me I got my bearings from that. And I got to see where little hot spots were, where the studios were, where museums were, galleries. And I just can't imagine if you come into town blind and you don't have any of that, like how would you figure it out,
Right. There are people that will come and visit and they have this agenda of like going to like, I'm going to go to these 5 places today. And it's like, I'm going to go to 2 of them because you're going to spend so much time driving and parking.
Oh my God. Yeah, exactly. We're going to go to
Hollywood and Disneyland.
Yeah. We're going to hit the Getty, and then we're going to go Disneyland. And then we're going to go to the, what's the place that's overlooking with the planetarium?
Griffith Park?
Griffith Park. And we're going to go to Griffith Park. It's like, no, you're maybe going to be able to do one of those today.
Yeah, pick one.
Yeah. And then it ends up being like, oh, we'll do one and then we'll hit the beach. And then that's your whole stay.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's
then if they do go to Hollywood, it's like the biggest disappointment ever.
Right. They're like, oh, this is kind of scary and a little dirty.
Where are the actors in sunglasses?
Yeah. I just thought we'd see them walking down the street. Now, if you want to get a good representation of that, just watch a couple of David Lynch movies like Mulholland Drive or
exactly.
What was the one he did with I'm blanking on names right now, but he did another one with one of my favorite actresses. Oh my God, we're gonna have to edit this part out because I just can't recall it. File not found. You know what? Fuck it. I'm leaving it in. We're not a professional podcast. But what's that?
Now I'm blanking.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I might. Was it Lost Highway?
No. Lost Highway is great though. I love Lost Highway. Did I tell you I did a show with the David Lynch Foundation back in the day?
Oh wow.
Yeah, I had a friend who was a musician, and they put together this concert at the Key Club, and the David Lynch Foundation was there. And I did like a live painting of David Lynch there, and it got auctioned off on stage. And I was like, I was only on stage with David Lynch, a photographer, and myself.
Oh,
And it was
wow.
like, it was awesome. It was amazing. And I like
That's
auctioned the
great.
piece off, and then I was so green I didn't do anything with it for like 10 years. So,
God.
but it was, I mean, what a great experience, you know.
Yeah, I read one of his books about him, and it was like as soon as I found out he was a painter, I instantly understood all of his movies.
Exactly.
Like I couldn't don't
Completely.
ask me to explain his movies to you, but it's like I kind of got where he was coming from. Like, oh, that scene's the way it is because that's how you would see it.
I couldn't agree more. And it's almost the opposite. You could say, if you told somebody who loves David Lynch's films and say, oh, he's a painter, then you go, whatever you're picturing of his paintings is exactly right.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Oh man, he's so good. I never got into the new version of Twin Peaks. I got like 2 episodes in, but
I absolutely love that.
it was great. It was just really slow, and for some reason, I can't remember. We got busy and we didn't finish it, but there were some really cool elements of it. But it's worth continuing.
Oh yeah.
Okay, great.
To me, it's the greatest thing I've ever seen on TV.
Oh wow. Okay.
I absolutely loved it.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, the original Twin Peaks is great. Sorry, another personal story. I came from Spokane. That's where I went to school, to college, and a lot of Twin Peaks was like the characters were kind of based off of some of the people that he had experienced with in Spokane. So it's like weird David Lynch connection.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm gonna give that a second watch then. That's great.
Yeah,
So
I'd actually like to watch it again.
there you go. Twin Peaks watch party. So Brittany's in a new spot. You're going to go check that out. Are you going to be doing another show once this finishes up at her gallery?
I think so. I'm gonna have to talk to her about it tomorrow and see, what she's got planned, what direction she wants to go in with everything.
Yeah, yeah. Well, tell her hi for me. I haven't talked to her in a long time.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, I was going to ask you about where you sell your work primarily, but I think we got into that a bit. So you tried some of the online art marketplaces, and you do sell more through galleries, right?
Yeah, and I've actually sold a few things through Instagram.
Yes. Yeah. Instagram can be great.
It can.
And you've got well, while we're talking about Instagram, tell everybody where they can find you on Instagram.
It's Glenn Waggner Art.
Yeah,
And
it's like
also my website is glennwagnerartist.com.
GlennWaggnerArtist.com. And it's 2 N's, 2 G's for anybody
Yeah,
who's
just
looking it
just to
up.
be difficult.
Exactly. If you're looking for the Waggner method, you got to look up with 2 G's.
Yeah, and
Glenn Waggner.
type it in without your glasses too.
Exactly. Once you put the glasses on, it'll all be there. It's Glenn Waggner, 2 N's, 2 G's _art on Instagram. And he's got a couple of really cool new pieces. The piece we were just talking about, which is called Remote Living. And then you got a couple of really cool comics. And I love what you do with your Instagram. You got the Notary BIG, almost said notorious. I love your humor. I love how you have a spectrum with your art between like humor, existential, and like really standard, just kick-ass, like Hopper-esque paintings. I love it, man.
And the thing that was kind of funny is that I tried to separate all of these out for years and years.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm kind of learning that, like, why not? Instagram doesn't just have to be the paintings.
Exactly.
It can be things out of the sketchbook. It can be cartoons. It can be other things. And I'm actually putting together a book right now of just cartoons and things from the sketchbook.
Oh, nice.
Something Brittany suggested that I do.
That's a great idea, man. Are you going to sell that on your website?
Yeah, and the thing that was funny was I started looking and I thought, I'm going to have to draw a lot more stuff real quick to make this book come together. And let's see what I have here that I would like to include in it, thinking like maybe 50 pages or something. Within like 10 minutes, I'd found like 40 images.
Well,
like right off the bat. So it's like, okay, that's not going to be a problem.
I guarantee you have enough already for a book. And
Yeah.
maybe you want to put a couple new pieces in, whatever, but I think you could just, go over your body work and be like, done. That's the first volume done. I can do volume
Yeah,
2 with some new stuff.
literally.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that'd be great, man. I would love to check that out. So anybody who's interested in that, hopefully that'll be up on your website at some point soon.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
then
I'll post all that.
that's exciting. And I like the idea of not limiting yourself, because I hear that all the time. That's one of the things I talk about in the podcast all the time is like, you don't have to 100% stick to one subject matter or style. I did this pop surrealism and abstract, and I have little subgenres within there. And as long as you have kind of a voice that you've established with those, I say do it. You know what I mean? Like whatever you're passionate about is what you should be creating, don't you think?
Exactly. And always keep pushing.
Yes.
Like right now I'm completely hooked, of course, on these desert scenes. I'll move on to something else.
Yeah.
And just see where that takes me.
Yeah. Follow your passion. Well, I wanted to ask you, what about your, this podcast a little bit. So I would ask people about their superpower. What's something that you do when you're not, I think we talked a little bit about this, almost like this hack, but when you're not feeling like creating, when maybe you're down, depressed about the virus, which will not be named, what do you do to get yourself up and creating?
Yeah, usually just open the sketchbook and just start making marks, not even having an idea in mind. Maybe just draw out like 6 little thumbnail squares and just start filling them up. And, something usually comes out of it. And
yes.
In the worst case, nothing comes out of it and you've spent a half an hour not stressing.
Exactly. So, well, and perfecting your craft in the process.
Yeah. And a lot of it, you may think it's nothing, but you may look back at that in a month or so and say, oh, this is an idea for a new series of paintings or something.
I completely agree. That's gold. It's like, sit down and just start working.
Yeah. And don't make it a precious thing. Don't make it like, I've got to make every drawing in the sketchbook beautiful.
Right.
Worst, just get a cheap sketchbook with lots of pages. And if something is really, really bad, and this does happen, where you I can't stand this, just take a straight edge, rip out the page there.
Yeah.
Or you could know.
Right. Or you can make volume 3 greatest misses. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, man. Not everything is gold. I've seen some of Picasso's sketches and I'm like, not all of them are gold. It's at some point it was the name that was selling, but like obviously Picasso was phenomenal.
I think it was Da Vinci when he was dying, told all of his assistants like burn everything that's in progress. Like, because he knew that they would come and just, it's like finding a new Hendrix song. There's probably a reason you haven't heard that Hendrix song.
That is probably a reason. And if you do hear it, some of his family got their hands on it. We're like, we're going to remix this and put it out there.
Exactly.
Yeah. The one thing I will push back on with that is Elliott Smith from A Basement on the Hill. I don't know if you know that album, but one of my favorite albums of all time. And he hadn't finished it when he killed himself. And I guess his family, this is what I've heard. Some people are going to get hate mail, but some of his family came and finished it for him. And what a beautiful album. But for the most part, I completely agree. Burn it. Burn the works in progress.
I mean, there's a difference between something the artist makes and doesn't want to get out there because they don't personally like it. And then there's also stuff that just, he wasn't around to put it out there.
Right. This is not for public consumption.
Right. And maybe it was intended for public consumption, but not just yet.
Right. Like maybe it was a preliminary sketch,
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, I think that's right on, man. But I love the idea of just sketching it out. There's something about that's meditative, that quiets your mind. And some of that turns into some great stuff. Like I did that with micro paintings. I would just start, I felt freer with micro paintings. So I took a lot more risks because it wasn't like, oh my God, I'm going to ruin a 3 foot by 4 foot canvas. Right. So
that's true.
Yeah. So you do these little small ones on these tiny little pieces of glass and you're like, oh wow, this is actually pretty cool. And then I would get ideas for bigger pieces. It just reminded me of that with your sketches.
Exactly. Because you'll see something in it. There's like some composition or something that's working that you can see doing this 3-foot square.
Right. And if everything is, as you say, too precious, you're not taking those risks sometimes.
Yeah, and you're not going to do anything. Then it becomes a chore. It's like I've got this blank page in my sketchbook. Oh, this had better be good.
Yeah, right.
That's the worst.
I know.
It's also a nice way to ease into going from there to painting because you're kind of loosened up by then.
Yeah, it's like stretching before a run.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I want to take your thing out of context and just use that as the quote for this show. You're not going to do anything, Glenn Waggner. No, I would never do that. Any daily routines that you'd like to talk about? Anything that it doesn't even have to be for art. Anything that just helps you out, like helps you be a better human.
As weird as the time has been lately, just being at home all the time, I've tried to do this where I'll write out a routine, like from 8 to 9, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do,
Yeah.
And then it becomes a chore. It's like, oh my God, it's 10 o'clock. I've got to do this. And I just said, screw it. I just kind of let the day happen. I get up, have my espresso, get on like social media for a little bit, put on the radio, whatever, podcasts or music or something, and then just kind of slowly work myself into like either the sketchbook or starting a new painting or whatever. It kind of is a routine, but I can't label it that way.
Yeah, it's a freer version of a routine. I mean, I would say your routine for sure is definitely espresso. Right, that goes without saying, right?
That one we can add to the list, and it will happen.
That's going to happen whether you write it down or not.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's awesome. I like that. That's great. Yeah, because everybody, something resonates differently with different people.
Yeah, there are a lot of people that really works for, where they can just from 9 to 11, I'm going to do this.
Yeah. Or, you know what? I need an hour in the morning. I think Drika was talking about this. I need an hour in the morning to just have some me time, to clear my head or whatever. Like, I think that's important. And you got to find out what works with you each individually. Like, that's why I ask everybody, because I'm not looking for the secret sauce that works for everybody, but like maybe somebody's going to find something from you that they just go, you know what? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And it's different for everybody.
It is completely.
The other thing I started recently was like a journal. The very first thing I do in the morning, of course, after the espresso, is to just write something in the journal. And it's usually just like 2 or 3 sentences. Mm-hmm. It's like, just keep it really simple. Like, what am I thinking? How am I feeling? What kind of art do I want to make today?
Oh, that's nice.
It's not like I'm sitting there writing a whole 2 pages of just stuff,
Right. It's kind of like a meditation. You're getting almost at one with your own thoughts for the day. Yeah, that's great. What about any biggest failures or a failure you've had in life that has taught you something? Is there anything that comes to mind that you could share? It doesn't have to be art. It can be anything.
I would say, well, recently it was just the kind of art finder and singular art stuff, painting on large panels. Mm-hmm. If I ever go back to that, it's going to be, canvas or things that I can maybe roll up and ship easier. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't really know if I've had any like real major kind of failures.
I mean, that's something
other than being depressed and neurotic.
I wouldn't call that a failure. I would call that either being human or a work in progress.
Yeah, I like work in progress. There you go.
Yeah, that's something that you learn from. I wonder if, just to follow up on the art finder and singular art stuff, I know that can be frustrating for a lot of people, and I know I talk about online stuff all the time on the show.
Yeah, and you've got it down to a science.
But that's the thing that I wanted to emphasize. It took me some time. Like, it took me a lot of time. And you know what? Maybe it's just not your thing. Like, it becomes like a job. So for me, it's one of those things where you're constantly flipping the switch from business half day to painting. And sometimes I work 6-7 days a week. I know for many years I did. And it's just like consistently putting work up. And I told myself, look, even if I'm not seeing any results, I'm going to keep doing this. I'm just going to keep doing it until I get results. And if you are committed to doing it, just keep doing it. And I guarantee you'll get results. It might not be like setting the world on fire results, but you'll get results.
It's the other thing too. It's like, for example, if you're in a gallery, you get a good gauge at how many people are looking at your stuff, and the interest level, or doing like, the brewery art walk, you get a lot of feedback instantly from that.
For sure.
The online stuff, you're in a vacuum.
Yeah, you don't know.
You can look at it and just say, God, I put stuff up every day for 2 months, nothing is selling. But you don't know. There may be somebody out there that's like getting into your profile every single day, and they're like, oh man, I really want this. And they're just waiting for the right thing to come along.
Absolutely, man. You don't know how many times I've had somebody say, I've been looking at your work for 4 years and this was the piece. Or I wanted this piece for 5 years and I couldn't afford it at the time. And now I can, and I bought it.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So planting those seeds, like I guarantee even with you, I hope you're not taking your work down from there. Just, keep it up, because you never know. It takes on a life of its own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's something I may go back into.
Yeah. I mean, obviously no pressure. Like for you, it might be more exciting to do the in-person. Like I love galleries too. I'm trying to do a combination of the two, but it might be your thing, like where you just don't like online, and that's fine. There's no musts in the art world.
This is true.
Yeah. But I'd love to see you get a couple sales from those places.
Yeah. And what's funny too, your last podcast with you were talking about,
I can't even remember what my last episode was now.
It was the guy from New Jersey.
Oh yeah. Oh, the last interview. That's why it was. Yeah. Carrie Maurice came up.
Yeah. He was really interesting.
He wasn't he? Old school painter, like from back in that era. I love that 80s era from New York, New Jersey. But it was interesting because I think he approached a lot of this from kind of the art scene perspective. And then it was like, okay, that was the catalyst for him to kind of get going with his art.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You guys were talking about like YouTube shorts. Like I'd never even heard of that.
No, this is
YouTube.
This is Alejandro.
I don't know about the shorts.
Yeah.
And it's just like a whole new thing that, never even occurred to me.
Right. Me neither.
It sounds like it's like everybody else is on it.
Well, it feels that way, right?
I know.
And that's also exhausting, because you're like, do I really have to keep up on every single trend with every single fucking app? And, and the short answer is yes, if you want to be relevant on those. If you don't care about them, then don't. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care about TikTok, for example.
Exactly.
And I'm just not going to do it. YouTube, I've tried to have a presence on there. I know TikTok, the reason for shorts is because of TikTok, by the way. So it's like YouTube's version of that format on TikTok. That's why those became popular. But I didn't know about it until Alejandro brought it up to me.
Huh. Wow.
So are you on YouTube?
So much stuff out there.
Sorry, go ahead.
There's just so much stuff out there.
Too much. You almost need a team working for you. Are you on YouTube?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I didn't do it for many years. And then I was like, this is just
not a bad idea.
No, it's not. And
you can sort of do like a little, even if it's a 3-minute like studio visit kind of thing, it's kind of a nice way to give. I mean, I would love to see my artist friends do like a 3-minute studio video. Yeah. Just like, what are you working on? What's your setup like? It's, the whole thing. It's kind of cool.
Definitely. And I think there's a lot of artists who, well, first of all, there's a lot of artists who don't know how to get started with that. But there's also a lot of artists, I think, that are afraid to, and I was in this category for a long time, of like giving up your secrets. You know what I mean? Like giving up the way you work, like somebody's going to steal it. I don't feel that way anymore. I feel more like, we're a community, and, we all can help each other by sharing knowledge. You know what I mean? Exactly. I don't think people should be stealing your style 100%. I definitely disagree with that. But if you can get a little tidbit from me here and there that helps you, great.
Exactly. And it's interesting to hear how people work and what their, what their approach is to the art.
I
It's
completely
like
agree.
skateboarding, and if you ever watch the Z Boys documentary, it's all about style back then.
Yeah.
Like everybody's got the same boards and wheels and everything else, but it's just how do you do your thing on the skateboard?
Oh, I love
And
that.
it's the same thing with painting and any kind of art.
What a great analogy. I mean, we all have the same tools,
I mean,
right?
you can do, front side aerial because you see Tony Alva do it. You're not going to do it as well as him.
Or the same
Or
way.
the same way, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's so true. Well, and it's the same thing with I've had people who said, "Oh, I really like your style," and they're like, "I tried it. It's a lot harder than I thought it was going to be," because it's not just the same as like looking at something and then mimicking it. It's like that's what makes us all individual and unique artists. Is it's filtered through something kind of intangible, whether that's your experience or your muscle memory, or whatever it is.
Exactly. But
It's
like I
coming out
was
a different
saying
way.
earlier, it's just like the kind of, if you want to use the word magic about, just doing something with a brush and having yourself look at that and say, well, where'd that come from?
Exactly. I mean, it's fascinating. Do you wait? Sorry, were you finished with that? I have another
Yeah.
question for you if you want. Okay. Any advice to young Glenn? Something in your years, all the wisdom you've accumulated, think of yourself at any age, something you could have learned looking back. What would you impart to yourself?
One thing I would say is if you get into a gallery or any kind of art scene, just enjoy it. Like take the time to enjoy it because you can't you show up there and it's like I've got to meet this person, I got to talk to this person. Hopefully something will sell. You get all these things going through your head, and it's just like when I look back at the times at Orlando and it was and also at Brittany's gallery, it was just such a fun place to hang out. I
Yeah.
met so many great people there, and it's like there's kind of a sadness now because that doesn't exist anywhere anymore.
Hmm.
And I'm sure it'll come back bigger and better than ever at some point. But I'm glad that when I was in those situations that, I had fun.
Yeah. Me too. It's so easy to get caught up in the process and like what you should be doing and who you should be meeting and that kind of stuff that you pretty soon 10 years go by and you're like, oh, I didn't enjoy anything.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and it's even, when you're there, take the time to like, I'm sitting in this room with all these people and this art is really great. I really love looking at it.
Yeah, and also just the buzz of the room. People
Yeah.
talking, take a moment to look around, just see everybody, talking, enjoying themselves, smiling. It's just a cool thing to be a part of.
Yeah. My,
Um,
my oldest daughter lived in New York for a few years. And she said the art scene there was it was on Thursday evenings. It was 2 hours from like 6 to 8 p.m. or something.
mhm.
And it was just very like uptight, snooty people. She had people walk up to her and say, "Oh, who are you?" And she gives them their name, and they've never heard of her, so they just walk away.
Oh my God,
So I
horrible.
said, "Are you serious? That's awful." I said, "Let me bring you some openings in Los Angeles." So I took her out to the downtown art walk when it first started,
Mhm.
and also a few other places over a couple of weekends. And she's like, "This is amazing." She's like, "It's a diversity of people. It's like one big party everywhere."
Yeah, people are acknowledging each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God. Well, and I will say there are a few situations in galleries that you can go into in LA where you feel that way. Like I know
That's
some
true.
people, I've gone into places where I'm like, oh my God, like nobody's engaging with me, nobody's talking to me. I feel very out of place here. But I would say that's like 10% of the time. You're right.
Yeah.
90% of the time, LA is a really good art scene.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. Most of it's really friendly, and most of the artists are great to talk to.
Hmm. Yeah, I think so. And maybe it's something about the West Coast, man, the energy over here. But
It could be.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Um, well, that's great. Great advice. I wanted to ask you if you had anything that you wanted to talk about because we're kind of getting to that point of wrapping up. Is there anything you want to plug? Is there anything you want to impart to the audience? I'm going to leave it up to you.
Just a couple of shows coming up at Brittany Davis's gallery. She's having a show called the Lucky Horseshoe Show. It's kind of an interesting idea. So it's basically a number of artists making art on horseshoes, like actual horseshoes. So I've got 3 of those that I'm going to have in the show, and those are really fun.
Oh, that's cool.
It was kind of funny. I got, Amazon comes with like this little package that's really heavy because it's got 10 horseshoes in it. Mm-hmm. And my daughter goes, "Here's a package for you." And she says, "It's really heavy." And I open it up and I go, and I look at it and I go, "Oh, cool, my horseshoes are here," and just walk out of the room. like what?
She's like, I'm not even going to ask.
I could just hear her and my wife laughing. I had to go out 5 minutes later and explain it to them.
Oh my God, that's great. I just found your new tagline.
It's like you can imagine, oh my God, did he buy a horse now?
Hey, Tarzana, why not?
True. Hey, there used to be horses here.
I'm sure there were. Was this more of a kind of spread out community than this?
Yeah.
It feels like it's been like our place that we moved into has been here since I think 79, but it seems like a lot of the buildings that I go around here are from that era. But I'm sure there's a lot of open space.
Yeah, most of the stuff out here hasn't changed in a long time.
Yeah, that's kind of the impression I was under.
Yeah,
but I know when we first went out to like Woodland Hills area and we saw some of it became very hip all of a sudden. It was like
Calabasas and all those places.
Calabasas, which my wife likes to call pumpkins, because that's what it translates as. No, there's some cool spots out here. So hopefully we're going to make this a little cool. Well, actually, I don't want to ruin it, but make it a cool little art hub.
There's a fine line there.
There's definitely a fine line. Well, because everybody's moving out here now. All the people that said they would never live in the valley like us are now out here in the valley, which has its pros and cons, right, Glenn?
Exactly.
Awesome, man. Well, so your new tagline for the show, by the way, is, "Oh, good, my horseshoes are here."
We've come up with a lot of taglines today.
Yes.
Some better than others.
Some better than others for sure. We'll let you decide which ones are better.
Yeah, if nothing else,
Yeah, right. So you said the horseshoe show, and then was there another one you were going to plug?
And there's another group show that I just entered with her as well. It's going to be happening in about, I think, 2 weeks or so. It's kind of a Valentine's Day type of show.
Nice.
So that'll be a lot of fun.
Are they going to be, I know things are opening up now a little bit. Are they going to be in person or are they going to be over Zoom? Can people find them?
I'm not sure yet. I mean, if it's in person, it would need to be limited.
Yeah.
The number of people that can go in. And I mean, who knows? Like we were talking earlier, it's just so crazy right now.
I know. Well, then that's going to be a perfect segue to my last question. What is the first thing you want to do in a post-virus world?
Go to museums.
Nice.
Absolutely.
I love it.
I mean, I've just been dying to go to like LACMA or MoCA or Getty or any of those places. Palm Springs.
And for me, it's that and movies. I'm just a big movie theater guy. So I grew up in the movie theaters. I would love to see a movie on the big screen again.
I can understand that.
For sure. Well, hey, man, it's been great talking to you. Let's plug one more time where people can find you. I got your Instagram open here, so I'll say that one. We got Glenn Waggner, 2 N's, 2 G's, _ art on Instagram. And then your website is what again?
Is glennwagnerartist.com.
Perfect. It's been great chatting with you. We've always talked, but I think this is the longest conversation we've had. So it was nice getting to know you a little bit more, man.
Yeah, it's fun. Thank you very much for having me on.
Of course. And let's have a conversation in person one of these days.
Absolutely. Now that we're like a mile apart.
Exactly. We, oh my God, it would be ridiculous if we didn't. Yeah, let's just meet up for coffee. I'll reach out to you when things get a little bit safer.
Sounds good.
Awesome, man. Well, have a great rest of your day.
All right, Preston. Thanks again.
You bet. Bye.
Bye.
This has been the Living Artist Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I just want you to know that I appreciate you being here, and I'm grateful to be in your ears. Your art and creative life on this planet is meaningful, so thank you for sharing it with me. If you like this podcast, whatever platform you're listening to it on, please subscribe and share it with your friends. You can also leave me a positive review to show your support. This helps me to reach more people with the algorithmic magic and keep the show going strong. If you want to see more of what I do and check out the art that I create, you can visit my website at www.pmsartwork.com or follow me on social media everywhere at PMS Artwork. That's it for now. See you back here next time.